thing is, like, in Brunswick, it was just college kids that like music that were bored because after they do all their homework or do whatever, they just go, they go inside a basement and they just play music. In that sense, it's one of the most accepting scenes, and it has the most freedom.
Sitting in the foyer in a halfway house. These kids were sitting here, quiet as a mouse.
My name is Gypsy, and the house that we are currently in right now is the Blueberry Shire. I moved here in June. So this is actually a relatively new house. All of the houses in New Brunswick have their own distinct personalities. I think that's the benefit of running a show house.
Each house has a different name, and usually we kind of create a theme out of the name that we call our house. For my house, the Pigeon Pad, I use birds a lot in advertising, and I know the Pussy Pad is another place. They use like cats everywhere, which is pretty cool. The Bomb Shelter, they had an event not too long ago called the Bomb Prom. So each house has their own unique flavor.
Learning about the venues of New Brunswick is like a trading card game. Like, have you been to the Pigeon Pad yet? Like, have you been to... No, seriously, there's so many venues,
Pigeon
so many
Pad's
bands playing all the time, and it's a culture.
Elliot, you're a graduate.
This house in particular is a dry house, which means that there's no drugs and alcohol at the house at any of our events. And I haven't come across another show house that's dry currently that's in existence. And the other thing that we kind of do here that I don't know any other house that does is the blueberry baked goods, which is part of the name, the Blueberry Shire. And I try to have food at all of the shows. I have some friends that come through that don't have consistent sources of income or places to eat, so I try to correlate the events as part of being a community resource as well.
I think the appeal for a lot of people when going to house shows is it's a fun and like cheap alternative to like doing anything else also. In addition to like, supporting like your friends and like bands and stuff that like are from your town. It's like, it's not a party, it's not like a frat party, it's not anything like that. It's like a very cool, inspiring environment that you can hang out in.
Everyone understands like being a musician fucking sucks. You don't make any money, and like people are all about like donating like whatever they can and like helping people get to the next show, and that's what it's all about, man. That's what it's all about, and the kids are doing it here, and it rocks.
I don't charge a cover. It's illegal to charge a cover because this is not a venue. We take donations, and I don't touch the money. It's for the artists.
Life's a joke, but you're being rude. You should try.
I think that, while it's like really, really fun to have all these people around that are really creative, like also it's like a little bit of like a playful competition. Almost like you see people doing like something really cool and you're just like, man, that was a really good idea, or like that's really cool. Like I'm gonna learn from this, and then I'm gonna talk to them, and I'm gonna work with them, and I want to play shows with them, and it drives that creativity a lot, I think.
My favorite part about performing at these house shows is when other people that you're friends with are clapping and singing along, and you're in a room where you know that no one is doing this for the money, and you know that everyone in this room really cares about the music, understands what's going on. I also really love the fact that like bands can play as loud as they want, they can say whatever they want, there's no censorship, and it's more of an art community.
If there's not that many people at the show, it still looks pretty packed because they're small basements, so it makes for a cool experience.
Yeah, it just feels right.
Yeah.
I just wanna be.
You hear stories about the New Brunswick basement scene all the time, like bands like Lifetime and Thursday playing here like way back in the day, and it's like it's like cool. I'm playing in the same area that these bands, but they were starting up like the same place we are now.
Growing up, like listening to that kind of music, I kind of like romanticized the whole New Brunswick scene. As a kid, you're like, holy crap, like I wonder what's going on like in these basement shows. And then when you start a band, like that's really how you start. You just find your friends and you start basement shows. To be a part of that, I think is just like really inspirational to us, and just to just make music and play. It's like definitely sparks creativity.
Today's society, music has become an industry. It's very capitalized, corporatized. A lot of, young musicians, DIY musicians, punk musicians don't want to be a part of that world. Anti-capitalism, maybe not, or maybe they just like don't know how to get into that world. But like they want to play music and they don't want to feel like they're selling themselves. So it's giving the musicians an opportunity to hone their craft. And some of the musicians come out of the basement show scene and move on to become very famous. Other ones, all they want to do is play basements because they find it to be a lot more intimate of a setting, and it's a lot more comfortable, and it's a lot more of a loving and caring community. So in a way, we're nurturing the artists that are either going to go out and fly as artists or just go out and fly as community members.
The demons hear you scream in the night. They want to take this from you. They want to hold on to the light inside of me. For if we can find a way out of this labyrinthine realm of the mind together, well, there's no telling whether these succubi will be able to stop us from achieving complete and total serenity perpetually. And yet this is just the inception. You have the power to create a conception based on a positive perception of you and me, who we are gonna be.
I actually participated in the show scene as a gutter punk, more like passing out in people's backyards, part of the scene about 6 years ago. I myself am in recovery. I'm a recovering addict with the disease of addiction, so I don't drink or do drugs, and it's very important for me in my home to feel safe. This is my sanctuary, it's where I live, and 3.5 years ago, I was homeless on the streets of New York and like hopelessly addicted to drugs. So like I don't want to end up there again.
This poem sometimes really brings the energy down, but it's an important poem to me. I am in recovery. I am 3.5 years clean off heroin, and don't get to be in recovery. The show we're performing tomorrow night in Brooklyn is actually less than a mile from the abandoned factory I used to live in, and that's really cool because I get to make new memories in old areas, right? But there's a lot of people who don't get off the streets, who never get out of the factories, and just recently I had a friend found in a apartment with her throat cut, and they think she did it to herself, and that's the reality of the disease of addiction. So I'm gonna do this poem. It's called Imagine. This goes out to the fallen soldiers, bleeding out on the side of the road, liver swollen, 23 years old. Those who fell victim to the war on drugs, thinking they were thugs, too tough to experience love, laying face down in the gutter, all because of a thing called pride. I've seen too many die, could have predicted from a look in their eye, which they tried so valiantly to hide. Getting sky high, scared to come down and take a good look around at all the dead bodies littering the ground. Those who are lucky go out without a sound, like a squat candle when you need it at most, extinguished by the breeze of another junkie's ghost. You thought this be easy, a hot knife through butter, but then there you are staring into the eyes of your own mother, and you lie, looking right into her eyes. You couldn't care less as she begins to cry, but you don't know how to stop, and your spirit slowly dies.
I got clean and I settled in Pennsylvania, and I was working a lot, and I wasn't really able to participate in art and creativity, and that was really it was robbing my spirit. And so I made the decision to go back to school. I am a student at Rutgers, and in that process, when I moved here, I looked at this house, and it's really funny because I went down into the basement while I was doing the tour with the landlord, and I noticed that it looked like it had been a previous show house. And the first question I asked him before I even asked if there was running water was if I could put on shows here. motivation for wanting to start a show house is, you know, there's like many layers. One being that I love music. I love being surrounded by music. It's really cool to have music come to you and be in your house. The other reason being that as a person in recovery, I wanted to provide a space for people like me who no longer drink or do drugs, but still want to like participate in the scene and don't really have that much fun at a show where like everybody's getting wasted, because that's not what we're doing. So my motivation was, I still want to live this lifestyle that I love, but I want to do it in a way that's safe for me and the people I love and care about. I do live in this house, but I try very hard not to be like the leader of anything that's going on. I give people a lot of freedom to be themselves while they're here. Obviously, the only exception being the chemicals that they consume while they're here. I always tell people I have no moral opinions on their behavior outside of the house, but when you're in the house, it's about being a part of the community, it's about being a part of the network. I want the artists who are performing and getting vulnerable in their art to be comfortable, because that's what this is really about. It's about the art and the expression.
I think safe spaces are kind of on the rise right now. Like, more and more venues we're playing are becoming known as safe places. And I think I really appreciate that. I feel like, as a member of an LGBT community myself, I just feel like it's a great way to accept people into that, make them feel at home in a scene. Because I know that before I started coming out like that, I felt kind of alone. And when I go to a safe place like this and see other people supporting the movement and stuff like that, it makes me feel like less alone and that more accepted.
My house is definitely a safe space. I have signs posted all over the place, making sure people are aware that it's a safe space, and if anyone does make like anyone uncomfortable, like with sexual harassment or any kind of homophobia, I make sure that they're escorted out of my place. I'm a queer person, so safe spaces are very important to me, and also a lot of my friends who like don't identify in like the social norms of what gender is, and you know, so to me it's really important that I make my friends, not just my friends, but everyone in my community feel safe and comfortable in my place. It's just been something that I make point of, not just in show houses, but everywhere I go. I want to make sure like it's safe for everyone.
We have a lot of diversity in the scene. We have a lot of creative freedom. We have a lot of the whole do-it-yourself sort of attitude, and that's a beautiful thing, because it empowers the youth, but it also empowers people of all ages. I love seeing people come here and just be like amazed at how things are, and it kind of opens their eyes in their own home to be like, hey, I have a little more agency to create the world that I desire. And that's like, I don't know, I feel like there's no better lesson that you could learn.